For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Sterling Drake. How's it going today, Sterling?
Good. Glad to be here.
Good. Glad to have you here. Really excited to chat with you, learn more about what you got going on. You know, your new album dropped back in October. Excited to learn more about that and, you know, just have a good old conversation with you.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
But first off, before we kind of jump into everything, let's kind of give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody that's meeting you for the first time and kind of give like a background of yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name's Sterling Drake, and I'm a singer-songwriter and all around a good guy. No, I've been here and based it in and out of Nashville since 2019. But I've been writing for a long time, and I just released my first record October 1st. And when I'm not here, I work on a ranch, and I have the ability to train horses for a few different trainers, under a few different trainers. And so between the agricultural world and music, I've been able to try and attempt to marry the two and kind of make somewhat of a lifestyle out of it. So, and I don't know, it seems to be going all right on my end here. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so you're originally from Montana, correct?
No, actually I was born in Florida, believe it or not. We were just talking about Florida before we were on. Yeah. I've lived all over the country. But you know, my parents moved around a bunch. But I've worked on ranches out west, and Montana's kind of been a gravitational pull for me most of my life. So I've been going up there and working. And so when I'm not here in Nashville, that's pretty much where you'll find me. And if we're not on the road, that is. Yeah. But I've been musically based out of Nashville since 2019.
Awesome. Florida to Montana, that's a huge culture shock, or at least it has to be.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think agriculture it's done very differently in other parts of the country. Don't get me wrong, but the same sort of people. My family had a cattle ranch in southern Florida, in the Big Cypress National Preserve. So I grew up in that kind of world, and kind of really came full circle with it after high school and probably my teen phase, you know, there. And but I've had ranch jobs from, you know, all over different parts of the country. But you know, those people are still similar kind of cut from the same kind of cloth, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So born in Florida and then just kind of moved out all over the place. Who was the first person that introduced you to music?
I guess my granddad or my father, I guess. Heck, my parents, I'll just say my parents. But I know that granddad listened to a lot of country. Dad liked a lot of that stuff because of him, and I liked a lot of it because of both of them. So I think one of my first stories is of my granddad singing Good Hearted Woman in the kitchen to grandmom, you know, just kind of poking at her a little bit. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And then was there anybody in particular that introduced you to the idea of pursuing music professionally, or how did you find out that music was a gift of yours?
Oh man, that's a good question. I've always liked writing. I've always liked creating. My mother was an artist. She liked to draw, and I took to that when I was really young, but I didn't have it. It wasn't the medium for me, you know, so songwriting was kind of the next thing. And I've probably been writing songs since I was about 13, but I didn't realize I was writing songs until just, you know, not that long ago that I realized that's what I was doing the whole time. You know, I didn't really think much of it. It was kind of inevitable. I've done all sorts of stuff in the music industry since high school. I was a local promoter for a venue. I played in bands and toured in and out of all different bands, country, rock. It didn't matter. I was just playing with anybody. Played drums, played bass, played lead guitar. And so whatever I could do to get my hands on music. And I don't think it was until, just about the past couple of years of my life that I was honest with myself enough to realize, hey, this is what I got to be doing. I think we all have that expectation that's set in us maybe by society that you have your passions, but you need a career, and they don't always have to, they don't really align sometimes. And there's always that jumping off point where I feel like I'd have to go to college sometime and do something or whatever, but music ended up being my best ticket for success. And when I was honest with myself about that, and that this is what I need to put invest my time into, that wasn't probably until a couple of years before I moved here. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And then what was, kind of taking even further step back, what was the first instrument you picked up? You said you'd played in a few bands.
Yeah, drums. I was playing drums since second grade, I guess. Yeah, drums. And then guitar came around in middle school for myself. I think just as a medium to write music. Mm-hmm. I never really still don't hardly consider myself a guitar player, but yeah.
Gotcha. Do you still bang on the drums at all, or is that kind of?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when I moved to Nashville in 2019, beginning of 2019, I ended up accidentally getting a lot of drum gigs. I was writing in town with a couple different publishing houses, non-exclusively, and buddies of mine would just pick me up to play drums, and then that became a whole deal. And I spent some time in Texas drumming with some folks down there. One of my old roommates here in Nashville was Caitlin Butts. Played drums for her down in Texas and Oklahoma and all over that area too, a little bit as well.
So I got to ask, where in Texas did you play drum? Or
yeah, we played all the different sort of dance hall sort of deals there. One of my favorite spots, this isn't Texas, Oklahoma, but playing down in that Texas circuit was Kane's Ballroom. We played Kane's Ballroom New Year's Eve of 2020, probably. Okay. And that was probably my last, I just actually recently picked up a drum gig last September for a fill-in on a run with a boy named Justin Johnson, who opened up for Whitey Morgan. So that was my last drum gig I had. But prior to that, it was that drum gig at Kane's Ballroom that was just after New Year's, maybe, of 2020. And I remember talking to my buddies, being like, "Man, this is the year we're gonna not. This year's not ready for us, man." And sure enough, we weren't ready for that year. So I might have jinxed us, everybody. Sorry if you're watching.
I mean, a lot of people, when we're going into 2020, this is the year. A lot of Live and Amplified, as an organization or whatever you want to call us.
Yeah,
we had big plans for 2020. And these were things that were firm. I had just moved to Texas, and I had lined up all these musicians that were coming through where I live in Waco, going to South by Southwest, and we were going to just be busier than ever. And then the pandemic hits, and it's nothing. We had so much planned. It was going to be epic. But now it's just kind of okay, we got to regroup, regenerate, and 2022 is the year.
Man, I was headed down to South by Southwest to play a few shows, and I also got asked from a good friend of mine, Sierra Farrell, if I could also help tour manage her on a run down to South by, which I was like, great, here's my ticket to get down to South by. Yeah. I can play some shows. And she was set for Luck Reunion there. And man, I had just bought the hotel rooms for all of us. And not an hour after I probably bought them, did they cancel South by. And I was like, man, but everybody's is going to have their stories, so and people lost a lot more than opportunities during COVID. So
There's one guy I knew was coming from the UK to play unofficial South by Southwest, like the outside shows and whatnot.
Sure.
He was coming from the UK. He had his plane tickets. He had like all these tour stops planned because he was going to land in like New York and then drive and gig all the way to Texas. And I was like, hey, if you're going to come to the US and spend all this money, that's the way to do it, gig all the way down. And then he ended up losing like $10,000 worth of plane fare and, all this stuff. And he's like, it took me 3 years of busting my ass to get this going. And just like that, it's gone. I'm not getting it back. And it was
such
like
a heartbreak. I can be wrong. I could be wrong, but I think, I don't know if you know of an artist named Meg Farrell. She's a great artist in Nashville now, but originally was in the New York City jazz scene, but doing some country stuff down here now. I think she was overseas or something. And as soon as she got there, she turned around, had to literally just went overseas. It was probably France or Russia or something like that. But heck, we don't need to harp on it too much. We all heard the stories.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was rough. And so kind of fast forwarding a little bit, the pandemic hits. At what point did you start focusing on like working towards this album? It obviously, with it being released last October, some of the process happened during the pandemic, but at what point did you kind of start working towards the idea of a solo debut album?
Man, I actually had about a 10-song record that I had recorded, self-funded and everything up before this one. And it was like my first, I've been writing for a long time, but I've never worn the artist hat. But I just it was just session after session. It fell together. I had some good players on it. And I was set to release that. And then I ended up holding off on it and probably only released about a song. Took the single out of it and just a single off of it and released it. And that was in the midst of COVID. And that was purely because I wanted to. I had shopped around, talked to a bunch of labels and different A&R guys and attorneys and that worked with A&R guys and everybody, and like did the whole politic thing for a couple months. And it just like kind of got the door slammed on me. And so I was like, whatever, I'm just going to put music out. And then I was headed back to Montana. I got an offer to work for a horse trainer out there during COVID. So I took that deal. But right before I did about 3 sessions at Sidekick Studios in Madison, Tennessee. And I was like, you know what? Heck, I might not ever come back to this town. But just while I'm here, I'm going to take advantage of the great friendships and musicians I've been able to meet and make some music just because I want to make it, just because I think this should be made for me. And if not a soul hears it, that's fine. I need to do this. So did about 3 days there and cut it and packed up and left town and just kind of threw it to a couple different connections I had, not thinking anything of it. And sure enough, like my management came from that, my distribution deal came from that, everything else came from what ended up becoming Roll the Dice, the record that I released like last October. So I had cut it like right not long after like COVID hit and everything. I was like, whatever, like let's just do it and leave town. And so it ended up working out and I'm back here now. I'm back in and out, I guess, but it ended up working out to the extent where it allowed me to garner somewhat of a tour route and some shows and all that. So, we're still really green now.
Yeah, I got you. So the single that you released off of the previously recorded stuff, that was Living Alone. That
yes,
was the single released in 2020. What happened to the other songs that were recorded, or are they just kind of out in the ether?
They're in the ether for now. I have a couple different tracks, and I almost forget that half of them were there. Some of the songs I'm holding on to, kind of keeping them closer to my chest now. I think I just needed to grow a little bit more as develop my my songwriting developed a little bit more, and maybe not my songwriting, more particularly my sound, what I wanted, how I wanted the production to come across and what I wanted to do. And I think I'm glad I waited to release Roll the Dice, and some of those songs will make it on some records. So I just listening back to a couple of them not that long ago. We did a duet with Sierra Farrell, who's a young artist here in Nashville, and she's making a name for herself. That made me think maybe we got to get together and write again or something. But yeah, if anything, it was just kind of like creative soup. It was a pot of what I wanted to put together. So I'm still writing all the time now. So
for sure. And so for Roll the Dice, that was just kind of you said like 3 days you put that album together, or what was kind of
3 sessions. So there's 3 full days in the studio, and then we mixed and all that. But yeah, we called Tommy White, pedal steel player here at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. He played, and Dennis Crouch, who's played with Vince Gill and Allison Krauss and Willie Nelson, and he played bass on it. We had my girlfriend Mary Meyer, she's a fiddle player and mandolin player. She helped produce it with me and played fiddle and mandolin on it. We had Charlie McCoy, played harp for just about everybody. Elvis Presley, Waylon, Patsy Cline. Anybody. If you're not familiar with harmonica, Charlie McCoy is where you start, I guess. But yeah, I made some good relationships and had some players that were enthusiastic about working with me. It's all off the books, no major label or no outside money. I was just like, I'm gonna put this together because I can and do it with my buddies, and so we cut it, and that was what that was. Hopefully we'll do it again.
Nice. And were these all songs that you had already written, or did you specifically write for Roll the Dice?
They were just like the latest batch of songs that I had floating around in my head at the time that I put it to paper. I Rolled the Dice I'd written, and none of them were very old, much older than the actual record. I feel like I write a lot, and I don't. Some artists or songwriters get invested in some songs and hold on to them forever. And sometimes I just have this feeling that if you don't get it down while the momentum's going, you might lose the magic of the song. So I do for myself. I don't hold any particular song in high regard. It's more the process that I enjoy. So just write them and put them down as quick as possible.
For sure. Doing this podcast, I've heard so many different strategies on how musicians pick and release music. Some musicians, it's very thought out and methodical, and it's like, oh, this song goes with this song, or this song leads into this, like whatever it is. And they'll write 100 songs and pick 12 to go on an album. And then some, like yourself, it's just like, oh, wrote 7 songs, they all work, cool, here we go. And then you've got a lot of in between. So it's always really interesting.
Yeah, I tried that first approach, man. I mean, there is some sequence to it. There's some idea about what you're doing. It's not entirely blind, but like, I just got so caught up about like, what do I represent? And you realize you're just like, you can't care so much. At least for me, I couldn't care so much about what people thought of what I was doing, or if it made sense, or if they're cohesive enough. Like, I don't know. And there's so many things. I think I'm in the camp now of just put music out. I don't see in my immediate horizon any like major label money or, a big booking agent or institutional, powers at all coming into my music, but that doesn't mean I won't have a successful career. And I'm so blessed to have just like any support at all from anybody right now. And in the world we live in today, I think with social media, music, we're so saturated with music that we hear something and we're over it in a couple of weeks or a month. And it's sad because it takes a long time to write some good music too, and a lot of artists will put a lot of time into one body of work, and people will forget about the whole record of 15 songs in like a month. And so I'm trying to figure out how it is I can reinvent my writing process to like match the world we live in today, instead of like that 20th century kind of standard that we still try to live by. So Just find ways to produce music that's quality, that you can continue to do, that I can sustainably release. So, man, we've already cut a couple songs, and I think maybe who knows, maybe we'll roll out some singles periodically and like just keep people, interested, and it'll lead into another record, another project as we go along. But, yeah.
For me, I've been, obviously I talk to a lot of musicians for this podcast, and that what you just said about people like forgetting about songs that musicians pour their heart and soul into for days, weeks, months, sometimes years, and it's gone. Like they'll listen to it, they'll be into it for 2 weeks, and then it's gone because it's just like, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I think that's kind of why it's like a singles game right now, which is cool, but I'm kind of old school in the fact that I like having that full length album. Like I like the idea of putting on a vinyl and having to listen through the entire thing to get the story. But kind of going back, I think right now where like the happy medium is doing kind of like what you did with Roll the Dice, where it's a full length album, but it's like a short full length album. So it's almost like 5, 6, maybe 7 songs. And if you're a really active musician with like a lot of creative juices going, you can do 2 or 3 of those a year.
Well, you know what? I'm like where I'm at now, I'm trying to find a way that I can continually record that's not going to, that makes financial sense and everything, and keeps the inspiration rolling. But I think building up a batch, I'm hoping if I build up a batch and essentially you're building a collection just like a record would be, but you're playing their game while also playing your own game, if that makes sense, by releasing songs maybe periodically, month after month, and then at the end releasing a body. But it being a cohesive, for myself, what I'm kind of torn with the idea of like releasing music that's a cohesive body, but like periodically release parts of it. And it's almost maybe akin to like watching a TV show or something. People watch like something on Netflix or whatever the latest show is that somebody likes, and like they just binge watch it and get it all out of the way. Well, if you release stuff periodically, they release shows weekly, it's kind of that same process. Is at least what I'm trying to emulate, Maybe I'm not alone, but I think that seems to be a good medium these days.
Yeah. But I think for that to really work, the idea of releasing a song every 4 or 6 weeks, whatever makes sense, that works. And then just kind of doing an album at the end of the year, I think you still got to find a way to incorporate new music into that album. So if you have 12 songs, then you have to have, like, just for me, like if I'm going to go buy that album, it's like, well, I've already heard all 12 of these songs and I already have them through iTunes or whatever. But if I buy the album, I get 4 new songs that I ain't never heard, So I think there's a way to do it. You just got to think in the mind of a consumer, where it's just like,
Yeah. I mean, it's a game though. I kind of enjoy it a little bit. I think with Roll the Dice, we were able to treat 3 of the 7 songs, almost treat them as like a single. We did 2 singles leading up to it. And then when one came out, we pitched one to radio and had a radio campaign that treated it as a single. I think it was like, we did Roll the Dice, Come Stay With Me. And then I don't remember, but there was a third one.
Something Tennessee.
Best of Tennessee. Yeah, that was one. Those are the 3 like singles essentially on it, and then you had the back end of the record, so you kind of got to find a middle ground.
Yeah, I guess. For sure. So now that the album's been out for a little over 5 months, right? I don't know if I'm...
Wow, that was quick.
4 months. 4 months.
4 months. Maybe a little better.
Yeah. So album's been out for about 4 months now. What's kind of been the feedback? What's going through your head right now that it's been out and you're starting to get some traction and some feedback?
Well, it seems to be fairly good. We've been able to put a lot of dates down, that's for sure, and find the band. And, we were on the road full time in October, November, and January. So and we played pretty regionally in December. I mean, we put a good amount of dates down. Been to Texas and back twice, and up to South Dakota and down to Florida. So we've really kind of we're building those relationships, man. I mean, we've played Lukenbach Dance Hall a bit and some of the larger dance hall venues down in Texas. We played the White Horse a couple times. We just were there with our friend Summer Dean. And yeah, just kind of like learning who our buddies are, you know, all over the country. And I think the best part is it's given me a platform to like actually hit the road and play those mid-cap venues or play those kind of prestigious show, you know, venues. We played the Broken Spoke while we were down there last month. And that was just so cool, you know, just for historical purposes. I love that place. So, you know, and doing stuff like that, we found a home at the Station Inn here in Nashville, which is one of my favorite venues here. And I think it's a slow game, but we're building and we've made a lot of friends. And, you know, a lot of new ears have been on the music because it's brand new. So, so it's cool. I think people are figuring out where to place us, but it's been pretty good. We've had some good, you know, reception from folks, and I hope keep doing it.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things when you're a new musician or a new act, is trying to find where you fit in the live performance genre. Do you play more to like dance halls and that sort of mid-sized venue, or are you more coffee house or big venue, you know, and just kind of trying to find where you fit in, because obviously not every band fits into every venue. So
yeah, well, we've tried to be pretty adaptable about it, and I think that's what's made it maybe work. I mean, we don't have I've been pretty much largely doing my booking and working with some local talent buyers. So, you know, and I'm fortunate enough to have a team on the back end to kind of cover licensing and distribution and a lot of other stuff. So it freed me up to do a lot of that. But we've done like, I've done solo stuff, we've done duo stuff, but we really enjoy taking a 5-piece country band and playing the dance halls, playing around the rodeo. That's the most, it doesn't get any more fun than that. But and we enjoy those, you know, opening slots for some of the more, you know, national acts as well. We've enjoyed playing with other guys too. And so, yeah, I mean, it is the thing, you build your identity. I don't think you like get to choose. I think it kind of molds into what you are. Right. So, you know, I think it's only time will tell, but we're looking at playing up in Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana a bunch come spring and summer. You
don't want to do that right now. I guarantee you that entire area is under like 2 feet of snow right now. So
yeah, it's probably better to do that. I don't think you get a lot of tourism too in Montana come summertime. So we try our best to take advantage of that up there.
I got lost in Montana one summer. That was horrific because my cell signal, like I didn't realize how spotty my cell signal was going to be. And I was relying on my GPS to get me. We were headed from Montana. We were up in Columbia Falls and we were heading south down towards St. George, Utah. And we got lost and we were just randomly driving down some dirt road for 4 hours because we thought we were going in the right direction.
That sounds about right, man. I mean, there's a lot of country between those two places. And you can get lost real quick in Montana if you're not careful. So, jeez, man.
It was rough. And then the gas prices, this was 2019, July of 2019. And gas prices were like crazy high. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like it really sucked. So, but yeah, no, so as far as like playing live shows and stuff, is there a city that you haven't played that you'd really like to play?
Man, we'd love to play everywhere that will have us right now. We're just excited to be, doing it. But, man, you know, the bucket list is always the Opry for myself. One place we haven't yet to play that we really enjoy, really love that venue is Green Hall down there. It's a good little joint. hopefully we'll get to play there. There's so many venues. You could just, heck, in Texas alone, Floors Country Store, in Hill Country. There's so many. Gotcha. Yeah, we're just looking forward to playing them all.
Gotcha. And so you're obviously planning to play a lot of shows this summer and springtime, and I'm sure as times get closer, you'll start announcing dates and as things get firmed up and whatnot. But before we kind of get to a couple other things, I want to ask you a very important question. I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child right now.
My favorite what?
I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child right now.
Okay.
What song do you like performing live the most?
Oh man, performing live. Does it have to be an original tune?
I guess not.
Man, that might not change the question at all. It's just worth knowing the criteria.
Yeah.
I have a song that I like to play that I haven't released yet that I've enjoyed. It's a song that maybe I just like to sing it. It's called "Shape I'm In," but that's been a fun one. As far as songs that I've released, probably "Best of Tennessee," I'd say, seems to be the most honest.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is it a song that the crowd responds to really well, or gets the crowd going, or?
Yeah, I think so. If you're listening for it, and it's got a fairly decent beat. So heck, even if you're not listening, I think people still enjoy it. But yeah, if you're from Tennessee, well, not Tennessee, I'd say if you're from Nashville or lived in Nashville, you can relate to it. Some folks relate to that sentiment, just in a whole different part of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the idea of like, the more you try to chase a dream, the more disingenuous that dream can become sometimes. And so I think you can relate to that in all sorts of different ways. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, yeah. So as far as like 2022, obviously we're still very young in the year, it's only mid-February, but what's kind of the plan looking forward? What do you have on the horizon for 2022?
Yeah. Heading back out west, come spring, summer, and we're hoping to hit Texas if we can, as much as possible, and just go where the momentum is for us. Being this new, it seems like a lot of some of the best opportunities have come pretty like in the kind of last minute sort of deal, a month beforehand or whatever. And so it's just evolving so quickly. We just want to make sure we can evolve with it and kind of follow those opportunities. So yeah, man, just keep doing what we're doing, more of it. And yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome. And I think that's more of a COVID thing, like the last minute nature of everything seems to be going through, because they don't know what next month's going to bring, let alone 3 months from now. So I think
throw that in the mix, and that definitely contributes to it. But then again, being a new artist, man, I had just released, I hadn't even had the record released, and it had been in someone's lap who was the talent buyer down in Key West last spring.
Yeah.
And they had Mile Zero Fest in town, and they wanted an unofficial artist. Someone gave me a call because they heard the record. Then I went down there and played there. And then a talent buyer from Montana happened to be there and heard me, and then got me on some last minute shows. And I swear there's this momentum of like last minute opportunities popping up that I'm following the trail, and they're all just random opportunities too. So you throw like just being the new guy on the block mixed with COVID. It's just it's just like keep my phone on me, I guess, is what I try to do.
Oh yeah. You never know what you're going to get, what's going to hit in the next week, let alone next month. So
you're not kidding.
Yeah. But just kind of outside of music at this point, when you need to like escape from work or, whatever have you, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do to kind of de-stress?
Yeah. Well, while I'm down here in Tennessee, I'm working for a good horse under a horse trainer here, starting colts in Middle Tennessee, and that I've been able to work my schedule around music and fill the blanks there. And when I'm back up in Montana, working on a ranch in Clearwater, Montana, we have a cow calf operation, and we're training horses as well. So, heck, I'm going to go out and play a bunch of shows, but probably stay on the payroll come this summer. Yeah. So I try not to get too far away from that line of work. Otherwise, it feels a little weird to get in a room full of dudes with clean boots on. I just don't feel right about it sometimes.
Yeah. How'd you get into horse training?
Yeah, I had horses at the farm that my parents had when I was living in high school. When I was a kid, we had cattle. Cattle kind of probably opened the door for agriculture for me, but Dad wasn't much of a horseman, and neither was his dad. They had him around, but I think it was having horses at our place in high school, right after high school, mostly probably when I was about 18 or 17. It was like just an outlet for myself. I think I learn while I'm doing things, and I like the relational aspect of horsemanship. I enjoy things like wrestling. I like dancing, and horsemanship is another one of those sort of physical relation that you build with something, right? So in that case, a horse. And so I don't know, I've just enjoyed it, and it's become a passion of mine. And I still consider myself very green in both music and horsemanship. And I'm just excited to be excited about something that makes sense. A lot of people get lost. Like, they're like, what do I do with my life? And I feel lucky that I've at least found the things I'm going to do. And so I'm having fun doing them.
For sure. That's always good, especially when it comes to something so creative as music, having that thing that isn't necessarily as creative to kind of balance each other out.
Man. Yeah, no joke, no kidding. And yeah, and that's another one. I think it's a journey, whatever you're learning, whatever your passions are. And I hear from a lot of people, or maybe other people that are starting, I didn't grow up. I wasn't mounted as a little kid riding horses and writing country songs as a little kid. I liked all sorts of different hobbies. I used to skateboard in high school. I used to listen to rock music too. It's not, you're not like given the title of being the country guy. It's not something you're born into. You can earn it. And it's I think I appreciate when people can at least identify that, or you don't have to be the most country dude to write a country song or enjoy country music or learn about horses or do all that stuff. And so I try not to come across as somebody who's got it all from the beginning. So it's a journey of my own. And I think that's maybe what's made me a little bit more relatable to some people, I guess, in that way. So yeah, I'm just excited to be learning things I like. That's it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer here. So as we kind of start walking towards the end of this, if people want to check out any upcoming shows or the new album anywhere, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, you can find me on sterlingdrakemusic.com, I believe is the website, but you can probably get a hold of me quickest at on Instagram or Facebook. I try my best to answer everybody. We're making friends right now. So awesome. Feel free to reach out to us there. And we're on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. So
sweet. And then one more thing for all the young musicians out there. Since you're still really young in your musical journey at doing the solo project, what's one piece of advice you've learned over the last couple of years that you'd like to pass on to the younger generation out there?
Yeah, I think it's okay to not be the best at something, or maybe it's okay to not be honest with yourself and where you are on your journey. And I say that, be able to look at yourself critically and objectively, because those things about yourself that you might be insecure about or trying to hide in the best way possible, people can see those things. And so you better see them too. And try and find those and just own them, man. Don't be afraid to be a green writer or a newer writer, or maybe your story, you're like your story isn't molded yet. That's okay. It'll come, don't try and be something you're not too at the same time.
Gotcha.
But that doesn't mean you can't strive to be something else that you are now, try and be the person you want to become, not someone you're trying not to be, if that makes any sense, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. But once again, I do want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome to come back. But in the meantime, thank you once again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.